biscuit and get the second for just $1. Save your card in the app to pay faster. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Valid for product of equal or lesser value.
This is Dan Kaplis. Many big problems in Colorado are caused by a lack of respect for the inherent dignity and value of human life. That lack of respect for human life is also behind the explosion of violence on our roadways, committed by reckless drivers who don't respect your life or anyone else's. Our firm has a long and distinguished track record of making these reckless drivers and their insurance companies pay in full so that seriously injured people receive the money they need to rebuild their lives. We're the only firm in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar jury verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. We accept righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that we can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need my help, give me a call at 303-770-5551 or hit dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S, law.com.
You've got the Ball Corporation postgame show with thanks to Twin Peaks, Eats, Drinks, Scenic Views on the Altitude Radio Network.
Welcome back as we wrap up the Ball Corporation postgame show as the Avalanche fall to the Canadiens 4-3. Ross Colton, Cale Makar, and Devon Toews did the goal scoring. And these two teams have the highest scoring blue lines in the NHL currently. For Cale Makar, he had a 3-point game. He scored his 75th career goal, tying Tyson Barrie's franchise record for most goals by a defenseman. It was Cale's 91st goal, including the playoffs, passing Sandis Ozolinsh for the most combined goals by a Avs Quebec Nordiques blue liner. So congratulations to Cale as he continues to just do Cale Makar things tonight. But the Canadiens score twice in the third. They win tonight 4-3. And that is it. That's the whole enchilada. That is our broadcast. We want to thank everyone who made it possible. Start with the folks here at the station. Me doing a fine job. He's the radio machine. It's Mark Springer. Our next broadcast is tomorrow. The Avalanche are right back at it. They're in Ottawa to take on the Senators. Broadcast time is 4:30. Once again, the final. Montreal 4, Colorado 3. For Connor McGahey, I'm Mark Bertinoli saying thanks a lot for listening. Have a good night, everybody. For those listening locally to our flagship station, Altitude Sports Radio 92.5, stay tuned for Between the Pipes with Alex Ryan-Amy and Mark Springer. For the rest of you, we'll see you tomorrow right here on the Altitude Radio Network.
This has been the Avalanche Aftermath postgame show with Mark Bertinoli.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Network producers are Jesse Trujillo, Alan Baca, Steve Nelson, Mark Springer, Jordan Berg, Dan Tanner, and Cole Smith. Network creative director is Marky Lindemulder. Network production director is Steve Cassidy. Traffic directors are Megan Rose and Tic Tantiwan-Gumpai. Network sales manager is Dan Stores. Network director is Kevin Shockey. Chief network engineer is Jason Gorodetzer. Senior vice president of the Altitude Radio Network is Dave Fleck.
You want a hard-working team? There it is right there.
This broadcast was a presentation of the National Hockey League and the Altitude Radio Network.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Colorado Avalanche post-game coverage continues now. Let's go Between the Pipes with Alex Ryan-Emy and Mark Springer on Denver's official home for Avs hockey. Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
Savard to the deep slot. Lets it go. Body's tangled up in front. Monahan has the rebound. Armia gets free, blocked in front by Cogliano. Cogliano has his stick held. He can't get to the loose puck. It's through a set of legs. And boy, they're able to score. Cogliano has his stick held for about 8.5 seconds. It goes unnoticed. They can't clear it. And with 4 minutes and 10 seconds to go in the third period, Montreal has scored again. And Joe Armia puts home the rebound for his 7th goal of the season. Armia, believe it or not, still doesn't have any assists. but he has a very important goal here for Montreal.
Avs fall in Montreal to the Canadiens by a score of 4-3 in regulation. Joel Armia, his 7th goal, 7th point of the season, is the game winner with 4 minutes and 10 seconds to go in regulation. Avs got off to a 1-0 lead. Juraj Slafkovsky tied this thing up 7 minutes into the first period. We were tied after 1. We were tied after 2 after a record-tying goal from Cale Makar, his 10th of the season. And then Cole Caulfield, a gorgeous far side shot, puts Montreal up 3-2. Devon Taves would answer with a one-timer of his own about 8 minutes after that. And as you heard Connor McGahey on the call there, Joel Armia diving across the crease, gets a stick on top of the puck. And that's all she wrote for the Avs. Your final shots tonight, 34 for Montreal, 35 for Colorado, who had a great 2-minute run with the goaltender pulled, but could not find the back of the net as Jake Allen turned in a stellar performance in the second and third period. As we welcome you here to Between the Pipes on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. I'm your host, Alex Ryan-Emmy. You guys know me better as Raj, joined as always by a man who is earning his namesake, earning the nickname The Radio Machine, my partner Mark Springer, producing the game, producing this show, and also, talking on it. So, Spring, what the heck's up? How are you?
It's just probably too good to be true that the Avs could go into Toronto, come back down 3-0 without Valeri Nichushkin, and then more clarity on his situation comes about today. And Montreal's a solid, plucky team. It's everything balances out, right? You get a win maybe you shouldn't have against a on paper better team in Toronto. An on-paper weaker team here tonight, but still competitive. It all kind of evens out. Sometimes that's how it works. You beat the good team, you lose to the weaker team. But, the Avs were a little undermanned tonight. Shout out, credit to the Canadiens. They played well. They played scrappy. That Armia goal, that game winner, was the definition of that. He scores falling down with his backhand. Good hustle. They wanted it tonight. Good crowd at the Bell Center. That's going to happen. That's going to happen sometimes. This is why the 28 wins the Avs accumulated before tonight are so important, because you're going to drop some that maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a trap game. You and I both know what Montreal is building up there, and they are still a couple of years away from truly finding their footing. They're young, they're scrappy, and for them to win hockey games, what they need is they need to have a typical highlight reel goal from a guy like Suzuki or Caulfield. They'll get a hard-working goal or two, and then they also need a goaltender to make 30, 35 saves in a game. And while Jake Allen struggled in the first period, he came alive in the third, made multiple saves that robbed the Avs, McKinnon, Colton. He even made the original save on Colton's goal, right, on that power play. He had a tip that didn't go in early, a second tip that this is the play that he scores on. Allen makes a nutso save with his left pad off of the tip, first rebound, and then Colton finally puts the second rebound in. Jake Allen looked like he was St. Louis Blues version tonight. And that's what Montreal needs to win games. On the flip side of this, and I'm not going to overreact to a loss on the road at the Bell Center to Montreal. Again, they're a 500 hockey club, right? That's a game that you should win as the Avs, but there's chances that you'll lose it. And especially when Val Nichushkin is out of the lineup. You said he was out against Toronto. You now have $23.5 million of players that are not in the lineup. And if you remove Gabe Landeskog from that conversation, then we're looking at $16 million out of the lineup. And what do you get, Spring, when the Avs have, we'll remove Landeskog from this conversation, when the Avs have $16 million on IR in a given game? What do you get?
Well, you have a top line, even with Drouin up there, that, Sheldon Keefe said is on a completely different level, and it is. But then after that, now without Nichushkin, now Ryan Johansson has to play more. Ross Colton had to leave this game for a little bit because he blocked a shot, possibly in his Ross and his Coltons.
How long
You know,
been sitting on that?
Oh, I use that all the time. I saw somebody tweet out tonight that he got hit in the Coltons, and I'm like, you listen to me a lot, bro? Because I say that all the time. The depth becomes an issue. So you become a good team, but a vulnerable team is what you become.
You become the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are a good NHL hockey team. But the second line tonight was Ross Colton, career third liner, paid like a second plus liner, but right now still has third line plus, like third line scorer type of denotation to his game, flanked by Joel Kiviranta, who started the season in the American Hockey League, and the Avs got him for pennies on the dollar, and Logan O'Connor, career fourth liner plus. Your third line is Ryan Johansson with, at this point in his career, fourth line player Andrew Cogliano, and rookie who was playing collegiate hockey last year, Jason Polin, who has played single-digit games in his career. Your fourth line is Freddie Olofsson, who split time last season between the American League and the National League and is a career fourth liner. You know who his wings were? A typical healthy scratch defenseman in Curtis McDermott, and then his right winger was a 7'8" guy who is career NHL/AHL defenseman Caleb Jones. What that brings me to is this is a very losable hockey game. Unless your top line dominates play and you get good goaltending, which I thought the Avs had okay goaltending, not great tonight. There were a couple that I want back. The Caulfield goal, whatever. You got to save the second one. Second one has to be saved, and I would like to find a way to save the fourth as well. But you can put that one on Josh Manson. Maybe you can say, hey, Sam Girard's got to help out, but it's Manson's guy. It blows through Manson on the dot. That's his player. That is a Josh Manson issue net front. So like big 6'3" defenseman, big bruising D-man that everyone barks down my tree that the Avs don't have enough for. Guess who got beat today on a net front play that cost the Avs the game? Their biggest D-man. So again, when the Avs ice this lineup, they are a team with boom or bust potential. And that's the nature of missing $16 million. If you want to add Gabe in there, $23 million out of the lineup. You become a team that can lose to Montreal, a 500 club on the road. Or on any given night, you could go out and you could beat Montreal 5-3. Right? Like that's what happens. The Avs had a stinker of a third, and that you lost the game. Way she goes.
Look, it's fairly impressive that Montreal, here in mid-January on Martin Luther King Day, finished the night 18-7 for them. Like they're having a heck of a season for their standards. This is their third win of the month, and all three wins have been against quality teams in Dallas, 4-3 on January 2nd, hosting the Rangers Saturday, January 6th in a shootout, and then tonight against the Avs. So they've been some quality opponents. They're coming off of a home overtime loss to the Oilers, and the Oilers have been playing very well of late. They also lost in a shootout in Philly last Monday. So, quality team. Jake Allen has struggled this season. He was 8-1. He was 1-8-1 in his past 10 games, but he has a .900 save percentage on the season, so maybe some tough luck losses in there, and he's always been a solid goaltender going back to his Blues days. I've always thought, he's a capable rotational goaltender. He played pretty well, got better as the game went going. He hasn't had many starts of late, so this really was a get-right game for him. He was focused. He had to have this one tonight. He had to play well, at least. So you would have liked to get a point out of this one. You kind of, as I'm kind of processing this, man, you would have liked to get a point. You were close to overtime there, especially playing tomorrow night in Ottawa. And also keep in mind, they've been without Miles Wood. They're still without Miles Wood, but he made the trip. He is in Canada with the team. Jared Bednar said today that he's not in shape. He's not in game shape after being out with the flu or whatever it was. So he needs to get his conditioning up. And then we could see him tomorrow night in Ottawa. When we were looking at this back-to-back here, the thought maybe was that, tomorrow night, second night of a back-to-back, was the more vulnerable of the two. But again, that's probably too convenient. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way that you plan for things on paper. The Avs lose to a formidable opponent, in my opinion, tonight.
Yeah, again, I think Montreal is a legit team. I don't know if they're a playoff team this year. They might be able to sneak in as the 8 if they get hot. They're probably not, but I like what they're building. Like I liken them to what Vancouver was doing 4 years ago when you and I were so high on Vancouver, and then they were about to set an atomic bomb to that roster, and then they found out, oh, this year we can actually like make a couple of changes, get the proper head coach, some good goaltending, and then all of the young talent that we've accumulated over the years after the Sedin years can actually come to fruition. That's what Montreal is doing right now. They're just a couple of years out, but they can come up and they can bite you. This is going to be until Lehkonen gets back, until Wood gets back, until Byram not so much because you're still fine on the defensive end, especially if you don't have to worry about using Caleb Jones as a 12th forward on your team, which is just bonkers to me, absolutely bonkers. As the forwards get healthy, this team will have a better shot to not drop games like this because you're not having to play. And this was a regulation game. Mikko Rantanen plays 29 minutes and 18 seconds of time on ice. That is the most of any player in the lineup, including the defenseman on his own team. That's how thin they are, how paper thin this team is because of all the injuries. It's not Chris McFarland's fault. It's not Joe Sakic's fault that they didn't do anything to address that in the offseason. They just have a bunch of dudes that are not in the lineup because they're hurt, or another guy who is playing top 30 hockey in the world in Val Nichushkin, who has now volunteered himself to go back into the players' assistance program. Right? None of that's on the front office. They've done enough to make this team competitive. They just need to find a way to get healthy. And I hate to say it, don't make excuses. It's not an excuse. That's just the plain truth. That is not an excuse. It is quite honestly the reason why they'll lose hockey games like this if they continue to be this thin. You can't look at me. You cannot have the same expectations for your Colorado Avalanche, right? You can't expect them to be your Avs every single night when you look at the lineup. And I know it's tough to get through to fans like that, right? Because by definition, you are fanatic. You are not supposed to see logic in that, right? That's what a fan does, and I love that about sports. It's awesome. It's the reason why I think the Mets are going to win the World Series every year, and then they blow up my hopes. That's what happens to me, right?
Yeah.
So what we have to do is sit back and look at this roster and go, if I put this thing on a piece of paper, and I forget about everything else that's happening behind the scenes, and I forget about what the Avs have done over the last 4 or 5 seasons, the expectations that they have here in Denver, the expectations that Vegas and the rest of the league puts on them because they are the Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar Avs, what would you say about the lineup tonight? You would go, that's kind of a pick'em, right?
Essentially, yeah. When I saw the Nichushkin news today, I immediately was like, oh boy, tonight just got a little tougher. Now, granted, he could have been out either way tonight because he was out on Saturday due to illness. Now, I'm not 100% clear if he was sick and then this is unrelated to that, or if it wasn't the flu that he had, but an illness related to the personal issues that he's dealing with. But either way, it paints a different picture. When you're out sick, fine, you're out sick. But now he, has to enter the player wellness program. So that screams that any sort of off-ice issues that he has been having, am I wrong to assume correlation between what happened in Seattle and what's going on with him now?
You are not wrong to assume that whatever happened in Seattle was probably aided,
sure,
for lack of a better term, aided and
yes.
abetted by something that is now landing him in the players' assistance program.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's wild about that, though, is he was having an amazing season.
Unbelievable. Top 30 in the league. You could argue even better.
So, much like with Sam Girard, is it a substance thing, or is it just obviously to go into the player wellness program, there's an issue there. You don't go into that program unless there's an issue. Now, it clearly wasn't affecting his on-ice play, but it must have been affecting him to a level where the team was concerned. Perhaps Val himself became concerned. Because my thing is always like, dude, I honestly don't care what you do. I don't think anything he's doing is performance enhancing. In fact, it's probably performance dehancing, right?
It is remarkable. If that's the case, Spring, it is remarkable that he's one of the best players on planet Earth.
I know. So I'm almost just like, hey, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you're scoring. You're tied with Austin Matthews in goals since mid-February or since mid-November in the NHL. You do you. But apparently, this is something that was affecting him to a deeper level and possibly the locker room as well. So they just had to get him right. It's just an unfortunate byproduct that, when the day that news like that comes down, it kind of sombers things. And that I have to think that's a contributing factor just for the mindset, the psyche of this team today.
It has to have been. Because I don't know if the team, I wonder if the team knew in Toronto what was going on, or if he was just, ill, like everyone expected that he was. He just caught whatever bug that Miles Wood was trying to fend off. It's a definite possibility that the team, upon learning this, had a little bit of a letdown. I don't think that they were terrible on ice today. I thought it was up and down. I thought it looked disjointed, maybe a little distracted. So yeah, I think you've got a good point there that things like this, because obviously while I call these players mutants, they are athletic mutants. They're not like you and I. They still are humans, right? They still have emotional ties that will affect them physically and certainly affect the mental side of the game, which I think could have been the reason why the third period was so disjointed. They'll have to find a way to fight through this. The good news is that Miles Wood is in the offing. Maybe not tomorrow. The good news is that Arturi Lehkonen is on the trip. Maybe not going to play over these 5 games, but he's knocking on the door. So you might be able to mitigate the loss of Val Nichushkin for the foreseeable future as he's in the NHL's player assistant program by getting a few guys back and healthy. Yeah. If this team was missing Val Nichushkin, Bowen Byram, but they still had Lehkonen and Miles Wood, and they lost this game, I would then look at it and go, what the hell is going on? Right? That then makes this type of loss to me, I wouldn't say unacceptable, but it would leave a bad taste in my mouth. Tonight, it doesn't. The only thing you brought up, maybe you wanted a point because it was so late in the third, like try and get that thing to overtime, ensure that you get at least a point out of this back-to-back. Maybe that's the only thing that I look at tonight and I go, yeah, it leaves me wanting more. The rest of it, them's the breaks.
Mm-hmm. I knew they were not going to sweep this 5-game road trip and probably weren't going to get points in all 5 of these games. So again, you're down 3-0 in Toronto and you turn that into 2 points. Look at the league today on MLK Day. The Blue Jackets upset the Canucks at home. The Ducks went into Florida and won. It's a competitive league. It's a very competitive league. Vegas has been struggling. They are riddled with injuries, and they got a big win. They were desperate today. They needed one, So it's up and down. It's up and down. It's ebbs and flows. You're going to win games that you are counted out of and shouldn't win, like being down 3-0 in Toronto on Hockey Night in Canada. And you're going to lose some games that you maybe should have won, like playing a competitive, young Montreal team. Like I look at that the bottom of that Atlantic Division. We've talked about this for so long now. What's going on here? Oh, the Philadelphia Eagles defense. I saw the look on your face, Raj.
Monster touchdown, 56 yards from Baker Mayfield to Trey Palmer, and it's now 24-9 with an impending PAT as the third quarter comes to a close in Tampa Bay, and Nick Sirianni's butt feels like it's on setting 6 in an Audi.
This Eagles defense has been concerning me for the past few weeks. And let me transition to the Avs, actually. Like the Philadelphia Eagles, you could feel over the past couple weeks the wheels kind of falling off a little bit. The Avs just need to not get into that territory, okay? And I don't think they will. Jared Bednar is a better coach than Nick Sirianni is. The leadership with the Avs is really good. Nathan McKinnon has stepped up so much as a leader this season. Kale's a good voice in the room. Andrew Cogliano, Devon Taves. They are going to be okay. How many treacherous waters have they navigated? The biggest being Gabe Landeskog and all the, someone's got to wear the C. They're struggling for a week. What's going on? They close the book on that narrative real quick, and they always step up. They always overcome, okay? Losing Arturi Lehkonen, the injuries they faced last season, they always find a way to right the ship because this is a professional team with good voices, with good leadership and elite talent. You should not be concerned about this team for a second, no matter how this road trip goes.
I think you can hope for what? 6 out of 10? Is that comfortable? 6 out of 10 when you look at that thing?
100%.
5-game road trip with all the injuries. If you can get 6 out of 10, that is a successful road trip to me.
Yeah, this is why you still leave tonight if you're the Avalanche 28-13-3.
Yeah, you're fine.
There will be a losing streak between now and the end of the season of 2 to 3 or so games, okay? That's why being 15 games over 500 puts you in a position where all you got to do is get into the dance and be healthy for the playoffs. And who knows, maybe Gabe Landeskog, who skated the other day, will play in the playoffs.
We'll take a quick time out here. Avs fall 4-3 on the road to the Canadiens, who jump back up to 500, 18-18-7 for the Habs. Avs are 28-13-3 as they hold on to second place in the Central, 1 point shy of idle Winnipeg tonight. Winnipeg now 2 games in hand on the Avs as they hold a 1-point lead. It's Between the Pipes and Altitude Sports Radio with Raj and Spring.
Broncos country. Your team isn't the only one with problems to solve. The NFL coaching carousel is gone nuclear. The Chargers, Panthers, Raiders, Falcons, Commanders, Titans, and Seahawks. There's a bunch of teams who are looking for a guy. And that number could go even higher. Follow the conversation and pass the popcorn with Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
It takes professional hockey players years of training and dedication to become so skilled at their profession that they make it look easy. The same can be said for the team at Plum Pros Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Drains. For over 20 years, Plum Pros has been providing Denver with good old-fashioned service, combined with the skill and expertise it takes to make their job look easy. For heating, cooling, plumbing, and drains, call Plum Pros today at 303-430-1911 or go to plumprosinc.com.
I got a nightmare phone call that no parent wants to receive.
Someone hit me going 60 miles an hour.
Dr. Ramos came highly recommended. When I showed him the x-rays, he immediately knew exactly what was wrong.
We've had a tremendous experience with Ramos Law. Really, I could not be happier.
Having the car accident was an accident. Finding Ramos Law was no accident.
Injured in a car accident? Ramos Law can help. RamosLaw.com.
At King Soopers, shopping with pickup and delivery is the same as shopping in-store. Same low prices, deals, and rewards on the same high-quality items. It's one small click for groceries, one big win for busy families everywhere. Start your cart today at KingSoopers.com. King Soopers, fresh for everyone. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Save on Kroger brand pasta, Rotel diced tomatoes, Chef Boyardee pasta, and more. Mix and match 10 for $10 with your card. King Soopers, fresh for everyone.
Hey, it's Andy Lindahl for Ed Prather. If you need to sell your home during the holidays, quick, fast, and guaranteed is what you want. Make selling your home easy without sacrificing profit by calling Ed Prather. Ed Prather will sell your home guaranteed, get your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and a deadline, or he will sell it for free. With a 194-point marketing plan and a huge database of potential buyers, Ed will sell your home fast and for max cash. No required repairs, no long-term contracts, and you can cancel at any time. Stacy in Thornton is one of Ed's happy clients. She was selling her late father's home and was very overwhelmed. Ed Prather and his team came to the rescue. They quickly managed some key updates, then closed in 4 days on the market over asking price. Ed Prather and his team was there for Stacy when she needed it most. Ed Prather is the only real estate agent I trust and recommend, and the agent who will sell your home guaranteed. Reach out to Ed Prather and his team at 720-650-4959 or go online at edprather.com. That's edprather.com.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Watch the show on Twitch. Go to twitch.tv/AltitudeSR. Brought to you by Safeway.
Done Right Kitchens, Baths, Finished Basements, Windows and Doors. Hi, Dan Cicchini here. So your kitchen's outdated and not with the times? Leaky, moldy, ugly bathroom? Ooh, is that dingy basement just asking to give you some beautiful added living space? You have the reasons why to get your project done, but what about the when? We're about to help you with the when, and you'll get it done sooner than later. Todd?
Okay, Dad, here it is. Folks, we are for a very short time offering bank financing or a significant cash discount on all services for select install dates. With so many style, color, design, and material options available, you'll be really excited to start the solution to your kitchen, bath, or basement dilemma now. Contact us for details.
That's really exciting, Todd. For nearly 40 years now, kitchens, bathrooms, counters and floors, finished basements, and windows and doors. Done right. You have our word will fit you right at Done Right. Go to drhi.com or 303-722-2295 or 800-362-8370.
It matters who your lawyer is. At Berg Simpson, we truly care about the quality work we do, that fair compensation is given, and that our clients are getting the best possible representation. We're proud of that, and it shows.
If you've been injured, call Berg Simpson for free now at 303-790-2525. 303-790-2525. BergSimpson.com. Good lawyers changing lives. It's not just a slogan, it's who we are.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Avs postgame continues.
Good job, boys.
You're Between the Pipes.
Between the Pipes and Altitude Sports Radio rolls right along. 303-504-0925 is where you can text us on the Champ Mazda text line. In there with the 394 who says, why is Tufty not on this team when we need a big forward, especially since Val is gone? Why do the Avs hate Tufty? Unfortunately, Riley Tufty is not waiver exempt. So if he gets called up and then subsequently sent down, he would have to clear waivers in order for the Avs to retain him. And he's a guy who has a $720,000 or $775,000 cap hit. He's very cheap. He has shown to be a legit scorer in the AHL. He's got first-round pedigree. So in order for the Avs to call Tufty up, he would have to stay the rest of the year. That's my thing, is that I don't believe that the Avs can commit to that right now. And I do believe that they think that if they bring him up and send him down, he's no longer going to be with the team. And in the long term, I don't think Chris McFarland is willing to risk that right now. When Tufty could be called up later on in the season, he could be a black ace in the playoffs. Like, he can be a guy who you use without having to worry about playing him in the regular season. So that's the reason why you're missing him there. You guys can also join us, twitch.tv/AltitudeSR on the Safeway Twitch stream. Join our friends in there. Anne-Marie's in there, Bruin, Eli, Sapien, who else is in there? Astro's in there, all of our friends. So join, watch the show as always, twitch.tv/AltitudeSR.
This texter texted in during Berto's postgame show. Around that time, he said, I was saying Boo Earns. That must be in reference to Jonathan Drouin, who made his triumphant return to Montreal tonight. Got a standing ovation in the first period, and man, he's had a great season.
Had a point.
How about the former Canadiens? Drouin, Lehkonen. That was a nice little stable that the Avs have there.
Yeah, and they gave up, right? So they gave up Justin Barron and a second to get Lehkonen, correct?
Yeah, good deal.
Justin Barron a second, and Barron hasn't found solid footing in Montreal yet. They really like what he can do offensively, but he runs into some puck handling issues and can be a little bit of a defensive liability. He's still very young. He's going to be a key part of what they do moving forward, but he still has some time to marinate in the American Hockey League. So in the short term, like the Lehkonen trade was awesome. Like, you don't have to worry about. Remember that conversation? Like, oh, did you give up too much? Because Barron and who's the kid that they sent to Anaheim?
Helleson,
Drew Helleson. You got rid of your slowly growing stable of defensemen for help here and now. And, well, it's worked pretty well so far.
So Drouin gets the standing ovation early in the game, coming back from a time or during a timeout. And so every time he touched the puck tonight, the Canadiens fans would go, Drew. Some thought they were booing Jonathan Drouin, but no, and that would have made absolutely no sense. You don't give a man a standing ovation and then boo him every time that he takes the puck. No, they were chanting Drew. So, hey, that was fun.
It's nice to see a Quebecois player get a standing ovation after playing in Montreal and being less than what was expected out of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the Montreal fan base is one of the smartest, if not probably the smartest fan base in terms of like hockey knowledge in the league. You can hear it every single time that you're watching a game that's played at the Bell Center. Like, the reactions are proper and they don't boo like crazy when Montreal takes a penalty, because if it's a trip, they're like, oh yeah, well, we got to kill one off now. I appreciate that fan base, and I did not expect that from them because of how hard Montreal media is on French Canadian players who have played for the Habs. So I did appreciate that. I understand enough about that fan base that they follow players like that. And when they find success on other teams or in different markets, they don't hesitate to show that appreciation, even if it didn't work in Montreal.
His first 2 seasons with Montreal, 46 points, 53 points, 13 goals, 18 goals. Pretty good. Pretty good player. Appeared to average about, 17 minutes of time on ice per night. Good player early in his career, and then the injuries kind of set in. But whenever he was healthy, like, he's a guy I noticed. Like, you'd see him scoring goals, getting assists, accumulating those points. Like, he'd show up in box scores. It's very familiar with Jonathan Drouin. So, injuries just kind of hurt him a little bit. But the appreciation there tonight, like those fans knew that when he was healthy and right, he really was and could have been even more for that team.
And we talked a lot about the mental side of the game, the mental side of these athletes back in segment 1. We were saying, hey, listen, the realization that Val is going back into the players' assistance program and he's not just dealing with an illness like, a Miles Wood is, probably was not easy mentally for this team to get over to be a consistent club this evening. The mental toll that it must have taken on Drouin being a top 3 pick, a Montreal kid, French Canadian speaking, playing in Montreal must have been crippling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what, maybe it's like a kid from the Bronx playing for the Yankees, or a kid from Manhattan playing for the Knicks. Like, I think that's the closest thing that I can find in North American professional sports, because I don't think there's a comparison with a football player, because there's so many football players, so many quarterbacks from Texas that would be quarterbacks of the Cowboys. Do you see any other?
It would have to be quarterback from Texas playing for the Cowboys,
or play. You know what's probably even closer than that? Quarterback from Texas, like quarterback from Allen High School, going to play for the Longhorns.
Yeah,
that's probably the closest comp, and it's not even professional.
Sure. I believe that might have been the case for one Quinn Ewers. Is he from Texas? Yeah, he's from San Antonio. He's been okay. He was the number 1 recruit out of high school. 5-star blue chip. He's been good.
Got his team to a semifinal this year. He's going back.
And now he's got Arch Manning breathing down his neck, So
this is probably better for the Arch Manning, for lack of a better term, arc. Probably better as we talk about college football on a professional hockey show.
Hey, here's what's next for the Avs, okay? Tomorrow night in Ottawa, I'm going to guess Miles Wood is back. I think
you kind of need him.
You kind of need him.
Look at the time on ice. Spring, the time on ice. Have you taken a peek at it tonight?
I did just look at it, yeah.
It is alarming. Alarming what you are having to deal with right now.
Yeah, almost out of necessity. Even if Wood's conditioning isn't 100% ready for tomorrow night, like, especially second night of a back-to-back, you got to play him.
You can't play Nathan McKinnon for 28 minutes tomorrow. You can't. You can't do it back-to-back.
So this is a concerning one tomorrow night because, and I was going to get to this in the last segment, talking about Montreal is, these teams in the Atlantic, like, they've been marinating for a couple years. Montreal might be the furthest out, but actually maybe outkicking their coverage the most of them this season. Buffalo, I think, has been a little disappointing, but they played the Sharks, but it was a good win today. But, they maybe should... I think it's a disappointing season for Buffalo, but still, young, up-and-coming, whatever. Detroit as well. They've been okay this season. And then Ottawa, which I think has also been a disappointment this season. But like I've seen what Ottawa's building. There's a reason that they went and signed a Vladimir Tarasenko, albeit on a 1-year deal. They thought, hey, that's a piece that could fit in right now with a veteran Claude Giroux, and then the youngsters, Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle. Norris is another good young player, but they've disappointed. But now they're going to get the Avs on the second night of a back-to-back without Valeri Nichushkin, despite the possible reinsertion of Miles Wood into the lineup. And we know that Alexander Georgiev is not starting tomorrow night, and Justus Annunen came on this road trip with the Avs. In fact, he was the backup tonight. Jared Bednar said he's going to kind of think about what they're going to do tomorrow. It seems to be a debate between Annunen and Prosvetov. Certainly seems like it's going to be Justus Annunen because you dressed him as the backup tonight. Hell, you brought him on this trip in the first place. The last time we saw Prosvetov, he allowed 4 goals to the Panthers, and it was say what you want about Georgie, that was the weakest goaltending I've seen in several weeks from Prosvetov. This tells me that they know that, what they have in Prosvetov, and it's not amazing. Raj, I'm expecting to see Justus Annunen tomorrow night.
I think they are too, and it's not because there's a big injury risk with Prosvetov. I think they need to figure out it. Guys, the trade deadline's way sooner than you think it is. It's 40 days away is when the trade deadline is. And what we know about Sakic and McFarland is what? Not only do they not take huge swings typically at the deadline, they like to make their moves early. They like to get ahead of the game with these moves, much like they did with Arturi Lehkonen, right? Get ahead of the market so you don't have to wait and watch all of these would-be acquisitions start to balloon in terms of their price inflation. They need to figure out right now if their backup goaltending situation can be solved in-house without having to give up assets to go and get another guy, right? So you're going to have to pit them against one another. You have to see Annunen play not just 1, but probably 3 games over the next 40 days. You have to see Prosvetov's probably play another 2 or 3, although I wonder if the data set is already there for UC Parkula and Chris McFarland. It might be. They need to have that with Annunen as well so that you can check off the box of Prosvetov ain't it. We hoped he was going to be. Maybe he can be in the future. Annunen's not ready, or it's time to move on from him because he's never going to make it to the next step. They need to figure that out not on March 8th. They need to figure it out weeks before March 8th.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned an injury thing with Prosvetov. He's not hurt, is he? I haven't seen anything there.
They're just looking. They need to change it back up. They need to
that's what
I
thought it was. Yeah, because I hadn't seen any. So this to me was just strictly play based. This tells me that I don't know if Prosvetov gets another start. If you're bringing Annunen on the trip to Canada when they clearly, because how old is Justus Annunen? He's in his early 20s.
I bet
he's
you
still
Annunen's 23. That's my guess.
That seems like that's a good guess, and you're exactly right. He's 23. That's
still super young as a goalie.
He'll turn 24 on March 11th. Man, born in the year 2000. That's crazy. And
he's had solid numbers in the A.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I haven't checked his numbers in a few weeks, but he was having a good season. I know they like him, and I still think, look, some goaltenders are ready at 23. A lot aren't. The vast majority aren't. He still probably needs more development with the Eagles. So the fact that he's going to Canada tells me that Prosvetov's days are numbered. And so now, this is tomorrow night's a tryout for Annunen. I'm with you. I think you give him another 1 or 2 in the next few weeks. To give yourself even more of a gauge of if you need a backup goalie. This is where you miss Pavel Francouz. This certainly is.
You certainly miss him. There's not a lot of goalies that are out there that are studs and 23 years of age. You got a couple of 24-year-olds in Swayman, in Ottinger. You've got a couple of 23-year-olds in Sam Urson, who we saw have a shutout for Philly, who, again, I had no idea who the heck that guy was, and he's the backup right now to our favorite Chris Cuthbert name of Carter Hart in Philadelphia, who's 24. There's not a lot of those guys. And remember when we got introduced to Carter Hart? He was 19. right? So, like, there's not a lot of these guys. And Hart was damn near out of the league down into the American League because Philadelphia almost broke him by playing him too early. Most of the guys that are winning games in the NHL, you got to be in your mid-20s. Like, look at Devin Levi in Buffalo.
Yeah.
21
Didn't
years
work.
old. They thought he was going to be the next coming of Christ up there. He was going to help the Sabres get back into the playoffs. Well, no, he's been splitting time between the American League and the National League. And then you look at a guy like Jukka-Pekka Luukkonen out there too, who's also under the age of 25 and not necessarily playing his best hockey either. Luukkonen's 24. It takes time. Like, he's still very, very young. I don't think they'll give up on him, but they need to know whether or not he can be in a National Hockey League backup within the next month. They have to find out.
We knew the backup was going to start in Ottawa. I mean, that's the way the schedule has played out here. You saw it coming with the back-to-back. The surprise is it won't be Prosvetov. It'll be Justus Annunen.
We'll take our final time out here. Avs fall 4-3 at the Bell Center to the Canadiens. We'll tell you what happened throughout the league on the other side. Also get you some Bet the Pipes picks for tomorrow. It's always fun. We get to get an Avs Bet the Pipes because they play it back-to-back. Not very often that we get to do that on this show. It's Raj and Spring on Altitude. Between the pipes as we wrap things up here on Altitude 92.5. Raj alongside double duty pulling Mark Springer, the radio machine. Avs fall 4-3 in Montreal. A jam-packed slate of games this evening. We saw the Sabres shut out the Sharks at home. They get 28 saves from Luukkonen. They get a 3-point night from Casey Middlestat as well, as the Sabres look to try and claw their way back to 500, but probably too much to do in order to make the playoffs this year. Bruins get the same score, same result, 3-0 at home over the Devils. 31 saves from Jeremy Swayman and a 2-point night from David Pastrnak, as well as the Rat Brad Marchand. And then the Ducks finally get a win. 5-4 overtime winners over the Panthers.
Comeback. They were down 4-2. Score the final 3. Look, Anaheim, they're young. And hurt. And I'll put I'll put them below Montreal. But with some of that young talent, you can get a sneak win every now and again. It's a tough league.
Penguins get a 3-0 shutout win at home over the Kraken. Tristan Jarry, 22 saves. Sidney Crosby scores his 25th and 26th of the year to move into 8th on the goal-scoring list this season. Crosby just continues to get it done. Dude's got 46 points in 42 games. The Kings get a 5-2 victory on the road at the Hurricanes. And the Wild, huge win as Marc-Andre Fleury breaks his deadlock with Patrick Waugh for second all-time on the goalie wins list. He passes Waugh. He will not pass Martin Brodeur unless he plays like another 5 seasons, which certainly isn't going to happen. Wild win 5-0 on the back of a Fleury 21-save shutout.
Marc-Andre Fleury looking good for his future team, whoever that will be. I mean, good win for Minnesota, but man, they've kind of put themselves behind the 8 ball here. And then how about the Seattle finally lost? That 9-game win streak comes to an end in Pittsburgh on MLK Day.
Vegas gets a hat trick from Mark Stone tonight at home. They beat the Preds 4-1, and the Flyers double up the Blues on the road 4-2. Carter Hart has 28 saves on 30 Blue shot opportunities, and that is your look around the National Hockey League. Knights get back on top of it despite being injured as of late and also just not finding their way. As I'm watching Darius Slay get rolled up on there.
That's not a good way to end your season.
No, it sure isn't. A little oblique injury as Philadelphia continues to crumble. They're not going to win this game, and Tampa Bay is going to see the Detroit Lions on Sunday at 3 p.m. on the road. Looking ahead to tomorrow's spring, we get the Avs. They have an early game tomorrow, 5 p.m. puck drop, 4:30 pregame on AM 950. They're minus 130 favorites as the betting line opens. No Nichushkin, most likely Onanen in net. We do not know about Miles Wood, but still favorites on the money line at minus 130.
And the last time these two teams played, because it'll be the second of 2 matchups this season between these two teams, was Thursday, December 21st at Ball Arena. Avs won 6-4. This, I'll pull up just to confirm here. Yeah, this was one of those comeback wins for the Avs. Mentioned the Ducks being down 4-2 and Florida coming back and winning. The Avs were down 4-2 at home against the Senators. This was a game that Alexander Georgiev kind of got right in. Midway through that game, it was like, allowing that 4th goal to Batherson. I was like, man, is there something going on with Georgiev? And then he was great the back half of that game. The Avs come back and win 6-4. A lot of goals were scored in that game. And now it's Onanen versus either Jonas Korpisalo or Anton Forsberg tomorrow night. Tough to say who Ottawa will go with. They're both very similar goaltenders. Probably be Korpisalo. He's the more veteran, seems to be their 1A right there. But 2 things, Raj. We were talking about the line on this game in the break. The Avs are minus 130, Senators plus 110. If Nichushkin was healthy, even on the second night of a back-to-back, even with the backup goalie going for Colorado, the Avs are at least minus 160. At least.
He's worth, I think he's worth 30 to 50 cents.
So I agree with you, and it drops them to minus 130. I don't. It's a tough matchup. It wouldn't shock me if Ottawa wins tomorrow night.
I'm not betting it.
Considering Ottawa was up 4-2 in Ball Arena a few weeks ago, they're desperate. They want to try to give themselves some sort of playoff push, which is unlikely, but they are the type of team that maybe they could. What I am going to do, though, Bro, total in this game is 7.
Oh, I have it at 6.5.
I'm sure you can get a 6.5 or whatever number. I got 7 at plus 110. Give it to me. Goals are being scored tomorrow night.
I can guarantee that. I expect there to be. If the only thing I was taking was going to be the over 6.5 at minus 130, I do want to give you a plus bet. However, the LA Kings at the Dallas Stars. LA has been a crazy streaky team this season. They just snapped a 9-game losing streak in which they found a way to get to overtime 4 separate times in that 9-game losing streak that spanned December 28th to this past Saturday, the 13th. They got back off the schneid at Carolina this evening, 5-2. They'll play tomorrow at Dallas. You know what LA hasn't done this entire season? They've always strung together at least 2 wins. There's never been a time where they've gone loss, win, loss. I don't think it starts tomorrow. I think they get another win. They go into Dallas, second leg of a back-to-back, and they stun the Stars plus 115 on the money line.
It's a nice win for the Kings today, breaking an 8-game losing streak in Carolina, and they won pretty convincingly. And again, it's the ebbs and flows of the league. I see that Seattle, I think it was a 9-game win streak, coming to an end tonight or today, and then they have to go to New York to play the Rangers tomorrow night. Wouldn't surprise me at all if a team like the Kraken wins 9 in a row, then loses like 5 in a row. The Kings lose 8 in a row, then they win like 5 in a row.
They've been streaky.
You see, the last season, the Blues, this stands out to me. The Blues had a stretch where they won 8 in a row and then lost 8 in a row. This is parity NHL. This is what happens. So the Kings, they could absolutely get hot again right here.
That'll do it for us tonight. Avs fall 4-3 on the road. They'll take on the Senators tomorrow. We will be on AM 950 starting at 4:30 p.m. The Nuggets will be on 92.5. You'll hear In the Paint with Dan Tanner right here on Altitude Sports Radio as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just got another touchdown, this one to Chris Godwin, to make it 31-9 with 5 minutes and 42 seconds to go in this game. Darius Slay again carted off at the end of this game, and the Eagles will get ousted from the playoffs, and Nick Sirianni's seat is just as hot as Mike McCarthy's. So for Mark Springer, the Radio Machine, I'm Alex Ryan-Emmy. We will not talk to you Tuesday. However, we will talk to you on Thursday night as the Avs take on the Boston Bruins. They lose 4-3. Tune in tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. for Brett Kane.